Welcome to Charts Today, European Opening. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Thursday, the 15th of November, comes to you from London. Dollar just sinking a little bit lower, just putting it back into short-term bearish territory. So we do have a downside target of 1%, but of course, having made those new highs, we're still pretty bullish. And looking at the euro is gaining against that weaker dollar on the short-term chart. We've got an upside potential of 1.3%. But again, we've activated that downside target now. So the job is done in terms of the long-term targets now. Looking at the dollar yen, dollar weaker here as well. And against sterling, we're seeing the dollar actually weaker there, sterling rising a little bit on Brexit. Sterling just fairly flat against the euro, so no real big reaction to this latest Brexit document, but interestingly, sterling just not rising on that. And against the Swiss franc, slightly lower as well. Against the Aussie dollar, sinking quite a lot lower, so stronger Aussie dollar there. Bitcoin collapsed yesterday. We really did see a massive move down, some 10% lower, and now is very clearly bearish. So that's bad news for Bitcoin. Looking at the US stock market was lower again last night, down 0.75% on the S&P, faded away towards the end. The Nasdaq was lower as well, back into short-term bearish territory, and the Dow Jones was down 0.8%. The Russell 2000 also lower, and this low that we saw in October now is the area to watch. If that comes under pressure, that's bad for the markets. The futures are looking higher this morning. The S&P future up 0.5% and the Nasdaq future up 1%. So it does look like we will recover some of the losses we've seen just for today. And we're looking at the UK market, the FTSE 100 up 0.33%, and mid caps up just under 0.33%, but still bearish in the short term. The DAX down slightly this morning, so weaker there, still in bearish territory, and the CAC Courant also down slightly as well. Japan is down slightly overnight, and the Hang Seng was actually up quite sharply, up 1.6%, and the Chinese market up as well. We've got a new 11% upside target on the Chinese market, but of course we've got these downside targets really hanging over us. If we make new lows on China, that's very, very bad. We activate this new downside target, and we of course have made 4-year lows, so we've got a lot of activated downside targets. So it's really just a relief rally at this stage. Looking at the Sensex in India, looking better short term. We've got upside targets here of 1.9%. So looking better there too. And the Aussie market up very slightly, but still bearish short term and closer to taking out its October low. Brent crude up a little bit this morning after a really tough start to the week, but still very bearish in the short term. And WTI, much the same picture. Any gains here just eroding. US nat gas coming way back, having nudged that $4.63 level. It's hard to believe that nat gas has gone up so much in the last few weeks, but it really has rocketed from the low threes to the mid fours. It's up almost 50%, so it's quite significant. Looking at gold is actually had quite a move yesterday as well, back into short-term bullish territory at 12.13. We've got an upside target of 12.42, not yet activated on gold, and 12.70 on the medium-term chart. And silver also looking a little bit stronger, that weaker dollar helping there, of course. US Treasury yields on the 10-year note sitting at 3.13%, and US German bonds short-term bullish still, but the medium and long-term charts are bearish. Taking a look at all that data coming to you from Thomson Reuters Icon, or if you're a private user, Metastock Zenith, it's the same thing. Looking at the charts for the Asian market. First of all, just having a quick look at the US overnight. We see here we had Alphabet up 0.6%, Amazon down nearly 2%. That route continues, and most of all, Apple down a further 2.8%. That's the big worry now. Apple is crumbling, and that's going to drive the market lower. Facebook was up 1.4%, but still looking very weak on all charts. Remembering this is my weekly, my daily, my on-balance volume, and my relative strength to Dow, all coming from Yahoo Finance's data. So looking at some of the other stocks we've got. Where are we? Microsoft here was down 1.4%, and if we look at Netflix, that was down 2.6%. And Tesla has been bucking the trend lately, up 1.5%. One of the few charts is actually bullish on the medium and long-term charts, so no clear upside targets there, but still looking good and outperforming the Dow Jones by 4% this year. Now, you wouldn't have said that about Tesla with all the news that you've heard of late. Looking at the stocks here, we see the S&P was down 0.75, the Nasdaq was down 0.8, and we're seeing the European opening up quite sharply. Looking at the Aussie market, we had some quite big performance. G8 Education up 11%, still a very bearish chart. Maybe medium term we're making that transition. We see here momentum building, but underperformed the market by 40% this year. Appen Group also looking stronger, and Regis Resources also looking stronger, up 5%. Flight Centre up 5%, but again, a lot of these charts really bearish. On the downside, Sierra Resources down 5%, so we are still seeing some pretty big ones. Dulux Paints down 2.5%. Again, bearish charts with downside targets here, so you can do this of course on any of chart you wish. Taking a look at the Nifty, we've got Adani Ports in India was the best performer, still looking weak overall, underperforming the market 20% this year and in bearish territory. No clear downside targets from here though. It looks like a lot of this is done. Titan is also 3%, and actually just making a bullish transition, one of the better looking charts here. Tata Motors has been rising again, but still a very bearish looking chart. And if we look at the and all these prices coming in live from Yahoo, if we look at Gracium down 8%, Yes Bank recently big fall, having another push for new lows, so really struggling there. Taking a look at China, we've got top performers up 7%. And only one down, so China looking very strong today. Hong Kong also looking strong, and the Nikkei also, we had some quite big ones. Amada up 11%. Looking to the European opening, we've got the FTSE 100 here. Again, these prices all coming in live from Yahoo Finance. Randgold Resources up 2.8%. Everaz up 2.5%. So the resource stocks doing well. Antofagasta, all the mining stocks here in the top, all still looking in bear trends, and we have got targets here. Looking at the downside, we don't have as many stocks down as we can see. We've got Melrose down 1.6%. No big moves to the downside, so that's quite good news. Looking at the FTSE 250. And just ranking the performers here, we've got Intermediate Capital up 9%, IP Group up 4%. So we're seeing, and again, energy stocks here, Cairn, Vivo, all looking quite a lot better. Interesting that Cairn Energy there still looking bearish, just moving into bearish territory. So even though we've got a relief rally this morning, in the context of the chart, still not great. Cineworld down 5%. Capita in the news again, of course, looking right on the floor here. Underperformed the market some 75% this year, so that's really significant. And then if we look at the Stock 600 across Europe, just ranking again by performance, we see Intermediate Capital, that's up 9%. And looking at the other end of the scale, we've got Cineworld, which we talked about, down 5%, Capita, all in those underperformers. So that's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.